Hello, my name is Kalvin. I'm a master's student at Indiana University, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my research on dreams. I'll start with why this topic is important. We all know that healthy sleep is an important part of a healthy life. If we're getting the average 8 hours of sleep per night, that makes up about 1/3 of a lifetime. Researchers estimate that 2/3 of the time we sleep, we dream, which means that roughly 20% of life is spent dreaming, even if you don't remember it. So what's the point of all that dreaming? Freud thought that dreams created a veil for unwanted, inner desires to be communicated to the conscious mind. Jung thought that they were the symbolic language of the collective unconscious and personal unconscious. So for these theories, dreams are meant to be decoded for meaning. Neuroscience says dreams are most likely for memory consolidation, that there are minds working through all of the sensory input from the day. From this perspective, dreams are certainly useful to development, but content isn't as important. Recent research is finding that there's a direct relationship between the emotional tone of dreams and overall well-being. Nightmares are not uncommon. At least 7% of healthy adults will have a nightmare this week. Chronic nightmares are most prevalent for those diagnosed with depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, and especially PTSD. So for a long time, therapeutic treatment of nightmares was more indirect, hoping that treating the other diagnosis would solve itself. But we're finding that targeting the nightmares directly has promising results that decreasing nightmares is followed by a reduction in symptomology and an increase in overall life satisfaction. The manipulation of dreams, called dream engineering, has been attempted in many ways, including pre-sleep stimulus exposure, sensory input during sleep, and post-sleep dream recall. Research reliably found that exposure to media such as film or VR simulations would appear in dreams. When applying sensory stimuli during sleep, such as a splash of cold water, they found that the sensation would appear in the dream, and the mind would try to fold it into the narrative. The most promising treatment for nightmares thus far has been image rehearsal therapy, where participants are taught to recall a nightmare in order to rewrite some part of it, then mentally rehearse the new narrative so that it overshadows the original nightmare. Controlled studies have shown a dramatic decrease in nightmare frequency and impact, even with only one treatment session. So while treatment techniques are developing, I wanted to see how art therapy might enter the conversation. I chose to start at the very beginning, to just ask, if I draw something before bed, will it show up in my dreams? As Potato the Pomeranian is demonstrating for us, my method was to complete one page of my sketchbook each night just before going to sleep. These were 30-minute drawing sessions with a set of colored pencils. The content of the drawings was predetermined with a list of random nouns. I wanted words that were emotionally neutral to me personally, because I'm not trying to manipulate the emotional tone of my dreams. I hope to see if the noun would appear visually or conceptually in the dream content, objectively, without having to consider the extra layers that come with emotional content. So for 3 weeks, I made one drawing every night, and when I woke up, I would record as much of my dreams as I could remember. I continued to record my dreams for another 3 weeks without the drawings, just to see if the original drawing imagery would appear later on, and for the most part, it did. There are two theories of when daytime content will appear in dreams. The day residue theory that says it will show up that night, and the dream lag theory, which says it'll show up later, usually 6 to 10 days. My data showed evidence of both. More than half of the drawings appeared in some form in my dream that same night. Drawing imagery repeatedly appeared in my dreams for the rest of the study, often with multiple drawings referenced in each dream. During analysis, we noticed that it was more complicated than anticipated to determine what content was truly referencing the drawings. We landed on a tiered scale, where dream content could either be a direct reference to the drawing, like the time I dreamt about baseball immediately after drawing a baseball, or it could be tangentially related, like the fire that could have been referencing my drawing of the sun. Designing this research as a self-study was really useful because I could visualize the dreams and remember more than what was written in the transcript. If you've ever tried to describe your dream to someone else, you know that you never really get close to completely describing what you saw and how everything connected. A couple of times, this made it possible to count references that would have been missed just by reading the transcript, because it was entirely visual, like an alligator whose skin looked like wicker that showed up after the drawing of a wicker chair. At the end, 16 out of 18 drawings appeared in my dreams at least once. On average, each drawing showed up around 4 times, with the most prevalent being Polaroid camera, which appeared 41 times. This high number was most likely due to the complexity of that drawing, which included scenes within individual Polaroids. This meant that things like travel and plants were counted tangentially referencing the drawing, even though they don't reference the original noun. Altogether, the drawings were included in my dreams 178 times, and 3 of those were direct, literal inclusions of the noun. So while most of the time the drawings were only tangentially referenced in the dreams, whatever I made was probably going to show up in some form. I'm hoping this research is a helpful starting point for using art therapy for dream engineering, potentially using art making to choose what you dream about. Along with the promising research of image rehearsal therapy and other forms of dream engineering, I'm hopeful that those suffering from nightmares can find relief and dreams can be used to improve your overall well-being. Thank you for watching.